Alright guys, what is up? It's Wilbur here again, talking to you a little bit about the bonus patch today. I meant to do this earlier in the week, probably about Wednesday when this would drop, but I had a pretty busy week, so here we are. The bonus update is actually going to be a bit of a smaller patch. If you don't know, bonus patches are going to be just a handful of nerfs, kind of keeping any extreme outliers until we get to 10.3, which will be the next patch. And apparently, they're going to be shaking up a lot of things in that. Apparently, their new philosophy is that they're going to be changing things up, doing pretty major shakeups right at the beginning of every SPL split so that they feel a little bit different, or every rank split. So that's pretty nice. I appreciate that for them. Let's get right into it. This skin pretty good. This skin mid at best. And Heroism getting a nerf, kind of overdue, but it hasn't been around that long, so we'll just say well deserved instead. Heroism is getting nerfed on the cooldown, which is a big change. That's going up by almost twice as much. So it's going from 8 to 15 seconds. And then you no longer can stack other shields with it. The biggest shield wins at all times. And this is good in my opinion. This is worthwhile for sure. Um, I think it'll still be bought even before it gets the gold per 5, which it is getting next patch. I think that it's just a good item. Right now, you'll just have to hold off on buying it until you're a few levels higher, whereas next patch, you can just buy it as soon as you get it because the passive is super strong anyway. Next, moving on, we got Mage ADCs. Mage ADCs did need a bit of a nerf. They were definitely stronger, especially early and mid games, in my opinion. I feel like Crit Hunter is kind of started to win it out late game with the exclusion of like Alaron and Freya, who are just insane and probably the most affected by these nerfs. But still, I feel like these nerfs are a little bit harsh. I think that this probably should have stayed, bringing down the attack speed on Telekines. I don't know that bringing down the power on it or on the passive by 20 damage at level 20. I don't think that that was worth it. I would have been happier just to see this, and probably just to see this, though either or would work there. They decreased the power and the passive on Cyclopean Ring by 1% and the power by 10. So, like I said, I think that the base stat nerfs would have probably been better off because even nerfing this indirectly nerfs this. Um, if you nerf the attack speed, there's less procs of Cyclopean Ring because it brings down the cooldown every time you land a basic attack. So I feel like that would have been enough, but they decided to do it a little bit heavier. Do I think it's perfect? No, not quite. Do I think it is okay? Yeah, I think it'll at least bring them back into line. Certain gods like Soul will probably still be played, but I don't know how deep into the weeds we're getting with Chronos even showing up nowadays. Um, that said, Chronos and some others build book at times, and we'll talk about that a little bit later because I think that'll definitely be less likely as well. Moving on to Assassins. Assassins, primarily, they're nerfing them for their jungle potential because they're the premier jungle class, and they got one of the best stats in the game very early on, which is penetration, which they got 5 at level 1. They brought that down to 2. That is definitely a good change. 5 pen early doesn't sound like a lot, but I promise you, um, when they're ganking you at level 3 and they're a minute 30 into the game and they're running you down, it's going to definitely make a difference. This should slow down their progression a little bit because right now it's kind of a state where jungle decides the game, and if one jungler goes to solo and the other goes to duo, chances are they're both getting kills, and they didn't really have to put much effort in for it. It's kind of insane right now, so I'm happy to see that nerf. The other nerf they have is Jotun's Wrath. Jotun's Wrath going down by 5 power. This one seems a little bit light for me. I think I would have liked to see it stay at 45 power and probably go up at least 100 gold, maybe 150 gold, because 2200 for an item with 20% cooldown is just absolutely bonkers in my opinion. I like that they have access to a tier 3 item pretty early on because you have like Golden Blade is fairly cheap on the AA side of things, but still I don't think 20% cooldown that early is it just seems wild to me. Um, then we have Book of Thoth nerfs, and we have Tablet of Destiny nerfs. These two go hand in hand as max mana does affect the Tablet of Destiny passive. They brought down the percentage on mana to power from Book of Thoth while you're stacking it, but they also brought down the mana to power conversion when it's maxed by 2%, where it's only 1 during there, and the base book has 10 less power. I don't think the item's dead. I think it's going to be much less must buy, much less reserved because 10% was kind of insane. We'll be sad to see it go, but at the same time, with this whole proc meta of getting book, getting tablet, getting soul gem, and reaver, it's just been kind of a bit much. So pretty happy to see it nerfed. Tablet of Destiny's also getting a nerf. This one, I haven't done the entire math on how much this adds up to, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to change the item too much. I think people that can stack it effectively will probably still stack this effectively. They just might be going more towards cooldown and things to abuse it more, rather than focusing on bringing that max mana damage up with a Book of Thoth or something like that. Reason being is that true damage. True damage is hard to find, and it's very extremely super duper good. You can't do anything about it. You just have to eat it. So that said, I think you'll still see this, and this one's going to be much rarer. Then Glad Shield didn't know it needed a nerf, but 5% sounds about right to me. Why not? Um, I don't think it was super duper crazy, but if they're seeing the data that it is a little bit overperforming and they want to bring it down, I don't think 5% is going to blow anybody's mind with the change that they're going to see, but I think it's overall good. Then decreasing the percentage of damage and healing from protections on Sundering Axe. I think that this is good because I'm seeing mages start to buy solo lane items again, and I'm a grumpy old man who hates that. I just want to see mages build big damage, but we flex it when we need to, but at the same time, I don't want to see us just tanky mages abusing solo items because they're absurd. So I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see us stick with our conduit gem sands of time type of things. And this just seems to make sense to me because I'm pretty sure that all the protections got raised on the tier 3s at one point in time, and the tier 2 didn't follow 15 protections for like 1200, I think it is. Kind of rough there. Mercury nerf needed, definitely needed. I don't think that it's going to make him unplayable. They decreased the max charge on his power from on his passive from 30 to 20%. So basically, if he's walking around, he gets his first hit to do 30% more rather than 20% more. Now it's going to be the 20%. A little bit of a typo there. That's funny. So I'm pretty happy about this just because I think Mercury's been running games quite heavily. They also fixed some text. Who cares about that, though? And Major Look went up 1 second. I don't think that this is going to change too much about the god. I think that it's going to bring him back into line a bit. He's not going to be like must pick type of thing where he's running down the game, but he does have a very good ult. I mean, at the end of the day, the amount of mobility you get from Mercury, unsurprisingly, being the fastest guy in the game, quote unquote, is insane. So I just think that the amount of pressure you get just from charging the ult, you don't even have to press it. Someone hears that big old clap, they're just going to back off real strong. Surtur getting nerfs. Good. This ability is frustrating to deal with. Max stacks on a movement speed buff brought down, and the max slow and the slow from it brought down. So this is going to make him less impossible to run away from, which I, for one, am a big fan of. I think this god is super frustrating. This is probably this and the alt are the things that are frustrating about him. The other abilities seem pretty good, so I'm happy with that. They fixed a Heimdall buff from earlier. I'm happy to see that. I like Heimdall a lot. He's one of my favorite gods. And I'm happy that they're bringing up his damage. I hope to see him soon, but at the same time, he is not really good with crit because they've nerfed it multiple times after he was abusing it quite a bit because of how hard his autos hit. So I don't know that we'll see him very soon, but depending on the way that things go, we could. I know that some mid laners were building him with like max power at one point in time and Crusher, and that was working out well. And Crusher's in the best state it's ever been, and I feel like he procs Bluestone pretty effectively. So maybe we see him go that route, but I don't think that he's contending in ADC with Crit Hunters right now. Yeah. So I think that's about it. With that said, let's wrap it up there. Thank you guys for coming and watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts and check me out on Twitch.